people don't understand the word reverence or celebration of like being deeply grateful.
Yeah,
And
before
if
you eat a meal.
someone out there has given up their life for me to be satiated and to be alive, and I'll do the exact same thing to worms or whatever is living,
Nutrients in the soil.
yeah, to the soil as well, and to a tree and to mushrooms, and
To
not
the
my turn.
mushies.
Yeah, not my turn yet, but I'll do the exact same thing, and there's that deep reverence towards that, and hopefully I'll be lucky enough to donate my organs as well to other people. I really believe that it's the less mindful I am, the more flavor I need.
And also, what are your strengths?
Yeah.
So, like, it reminds me of that saying, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend
Yeah.
its life thinking that
Yeah.
it's stupid.
Hi, my name is Aggie, and this is Biohacking Bestie. The one-stop shop for a modern queen, where you can find biohacking courses, self-growth courses, and where you can find the most incredible community of women so you can hit all of your biohacking goals and beyond. Welcome to Biohacking Bestie, and today yours truly is hosting a beautiful special human, Sienna. As we just decided, she doesn't need her last name, because when you have such a beautiful, unique name, you just like Beyonce and you don't need a last name.
Aggie, Sienna, Beyonce.
Let's embrace it. Anyways, so good to see you. I'm trying to remember how long I followed you on Instagram, but probably half a decade at least.
Right.
So it's been a hot second. And I want to start off by at the episode by quoting you. And by the way, if you're listening to this, or if you're watching this, you probably see my very orange yellow
Stick it out.
tongue.
Stick it out. Yeah.
From all my turmeric matcha that I'm drinking, because it's afternoon and I'm trying to avoid caffeine and it's good for your inflammation, Anyways, but if you're listening and you're resonating with anything that Sjana's saying, you feel like, wow, isn't she great? Like, I love her. I feel connected. Make sure to let her know. Like, repost the episode, share it with your best friend, tag Sienna, tag Biohacking Bestie. Just be part of the conversation. This isn't a monologue between us. It's you, my dear bestie. You are a part of this conversation. So just speak up and connect with us, because that's what we're doing. We already know each other. The reason why we're doing the podcast is for people to see a part of us that hasn't been able to be fully expressed through Instagram. Right?
Yeah.
And so here we are. All right. So I want to actually start by quoting you. That's why I have my iPad. This is when I'm up to something no good.
Oh, no.
But you said recently on Instagram, you are allowed to be hot, rich, healthy, fulfilled, wildly in love, and very, very happy. Why do so many women believe that these are the things that are impossible for them and that they aren't capable of being these things? I find more and more women who think they can't experience these things in their lives. Why is it?
Why is it?
Yeah. Like, they just like pause and just like, why is it?
I think it's different for everyone. But, I mean, my own personal journey. Are you like actually asking the question? Why is it?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think it's like, my first reaction is like, if you're, listening to a video, it's like, oh, easy for you to say because you're hot and beautiful and successful, like, of course it's easy for you to be, X, Y, and Z. But there's a part of you that believes that you can be hot, rich, and successful and flexible and have all the things in life.
Flexible. I love that you added that in.
Yeah.
Flexible.
Yeah.
Flexible.
Honestly, it's my biggest dream. I don't feel flexible at all. And I think it comes from...
In your body or mentally?
In my body.
Yeah.
And it comes from like stress. So I noticed in the last 5 years, like, I don't stretch enough. So I think being flexible is like my vision board.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yoga
100%.
everywhere on your vision board?
Just like feeling so comfortable in my body that I can really just get into any pose,
I wish there was more space, and I'll take you through like an actual little flow that you can do every night.
Yes, please.
Like, no, but that's literally all you need. So like, there's no need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to like go to a yoga class every single day.
Which that's the story I tell myself. That's why I'm not flexible,
because you don't go to yoga
class, yeah.
and you're not flexible enough to go to yoga. I hear that all the time. People are like, I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough to go to yoga. I'm like, that's why you go to yoga.
Yeah.
So that with repetition and consistency and just showing up for yourself, you can become like a little bit better. And then before you know it, you'll be in the slits and you'll be like, how did this happen?
Yeah. So I think that's the whole thing, is the consistency, right? Like that you do yoga once and it's just like, oh, it really sucks because I'm super not flexible. And, of course, it's fun for you because you're flexible. And it's such a catch-22 because the better you are at something, the more enjoyable it is. But you have to go through this really shitty period when it sucks and it's not so fun.
Maybe, but do you? Like, do you have to go through that shitty period, or can you just like enjoy learning?
Yeah.
That's something that I'm finally figuring out in my life, rather than only doing the things that I know that I'm good at.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I'm missing out on so much more. And so I'm now inspired by the challenge.
Yeah.
And just by learning something new. Growth mindset. I can't even remember who wrote that book, but I listened to it recently and I was like, yes, fuck yes. Big fuck yes.
Yeah.
Growth mindset. It's not, there's nothing that I did wrong or that I'm not good at, because it's just showing me where I can be better and what else I have to learn. And that part's exciting.
Yeah. And finding the pleasure in the learning, not in the end goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with yoga.
I think yoga is such a tricky one, because I feel like the story we women tell ourselves is that we're meant to be flexible. We're meant to be good at dancing and yoga and doing makeup and cooking. And when we're not failing at those things, it feels like we're not feminine enough, or there's something wrong with us, without realizing that like it just takes a little bit more pause than other activities. And hence it might be challenging to some women that are in fight or flight.
Who told us that we had to be good at those things though?
It's the story that we like. The society is like, oh, this is a feminine thing.
Who told you?
Yeah.
Like, think back to, okay, I'm not flexible.
Yeah.
How did you even adopt that belief?
I adopted by comparing myself to people like you. I'd say this flexible, this not flexible. Okay.
But
that's the story. It's like comparison is like tricky, because you're probably not as flexible as some of the yogis. And
in certain ways,
yeah.
Like, but that's the beauty of it. Like, I just did a shoot last week in Cabo, and
I saw it.
It's so cool seeing all the ways that our bodies move so differently and so uniquely. Like, we know our strengths. And so between the few yogis that were there, it's kind of like, okay, you do this, you do that one, because they need a deep back bend, and like your back bend's deeper, or they need like I'm an inverter, like I'm amazing upside down. And so anytime they need someone to do a handstand, they're like, SJ, jump in. And I'm like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's
not me. They'll be like, no, you sit this one down.
You'll do that in the meditation.
Yeah. It's so funny.
You're doing great.
Like, and I think because we store our trauma in our bodies, right? So the more trauma there is, the more tightness around the hips, which I'm noticing. It's not like aging. People are like, oh, I'm aging, I'm not as flexible, and have some turmeric for your joints. It's not aging. It's the trauma that gets collected all over your body. So unless you somatically basically movement, remove the trauma from your body, it's gonna just keep on being stuck, so that you get more rigid and less flexible. And then if you use practices that lovingly force your body out of those.
Lovingly force, I like that.
Yeah, like
I
just like, because
that.
you have to have a little bit of discipline in that, and just realize like, okay, maybe it doesn't feel really good, but like there is obviously to everything that's beautiful, there is a resistance at the beginning. So that's why I always feel like breath work in yoga, because there is resistance, there is the gift, right?
Do you practice breath work every day or every other day?
Not every day, but I definitely know that it's one of the things I would love to do every day. I meditate every day, but not breath work. I just also not a big fan of like having a 25-step morning routine. I'm like, have real life going on. I don't have, when you see these, like, did you see that reel that went viral?
No.
I was like, this 2 biohackers meeting, and it was just like, hey, I'm so sorry I'm late.
It did. I did. Yeah.
Like I had a 20-step morning routine.
I resonated hard.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I just want to like have a morning routine, but it just felt like back in the day it was 2 hours, because I felt like, brush your teeth with the left hand, and then, meditate, and then do this, and then like freaking pray and breath work. And I'm just like, okay, this is great, but
the day's over. Good night.
yeah, pretty much, right? And just like, I think also came from a place of trying to get everything done.
Yeah.
And so what my coach told me, she's like my spiritual coach, and she said basically like, it's all the energy behind everything you do changes the thing. So if you're doing yoga because you're like, oh my God, I need to be flexible so I can look as hot as Sienna on Instagram, that's not the energy to do yoga for. You want to do it because I want to feel good in my body. And like, I want to just have a connection with my body in a way, right? So like, you can be doing yoga, but if you're doing it from the wrong place, like what's the point? And same goes with the morning routine. A lot of times we do a morning routine because we watch a bro, like, video on Instagram, and he's cold plunging and fasting for 20 hours and this and that, and you just feel like like I should do the same thing, I guess, and otherwise I'm weak. And then fair play to David Goggins, whatever on earth he's doing in the morning. But I'm sure it's not like we're women.
50 steps.
Yeah. But it would be great. Like, I want to talk to you a lot about like cycle and how we can cycle our energy and what does it mean to you? What do you think about your cycle? And yeah.
I want to thank you first and foremost. You are the one, so only recently I saw this because I think you only spoke about it recently. Or maybe I saw it on an explore page, I don't know. But about not doing ice baths unless you're in your luteal phase. Like you should only be doing it in your luteal phase. And I was like trying to, keep up with my partner who loves doing ice baths every day.
Yeah.
But as soon as I heard that, I was like, that makes so much sense, even from an intuitive perspective of like how I wanted so much to resist it at certain parts of my cycle.
Yeah, and then you feel like, oh, I need that discipline and, and do the right thing. And so that's my question to you, how that journey has been for you. Because I love that you mentioned the word intuition, which we all have. And big part of yoga is kind of just also, I don't know what the word is, but like when do you have type A personality or are you more chill? Like what's your...
No, ADHD for sure.
Yeah. So like for you, like your gift would be to do like a yin yoga, so like something calming, right? Versus like something that's already activating. It's comes easy to you. So like what's your medicine? What gives you the most growth?
I love this question.
And so it's very, very true. Like, so for someone who's very type A personality, having a 40-step morning routine probably is not the medicine. Maybe the medicine is just doing one thing and just that one thing for 30 minutes, right? Because that's the uncomfortable. Like, I always like to ask myself, what's the most uncomfortable option?
Yeah. See, like being okay, being comfortable in discomfort.
Yeah.
Which at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm all for that. I want to be as uncomfortable as I can this year. And then I was like, hang on, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Like, don't want to be as uncomfortable as I possibly can. But I know that I'm at the point in the relationship with myself of being open to learn exactly what that is with the understanding that half the shit that I think is good for me, I'm going to learn it might be different.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a big way to look at that is in respect to diet. And so I was like plant-based vegan for 14-ish years and then recently started incorporating animal products and I feel so different instantly. And I don't know if that's, I didn't feel like I was able to be satiated. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, so I was vegan for 8, so I can resonate, but I'm just curious.
But I didn't know what I was missing. Like that was just the new normal. And so I hadn't thought about it as even being an option for me to be able to eat what I wanted, especially because then I became known for that within the online realm. And so veering away from that felt a little bit scary at first just because I didn't want to let other people down. And then I was like, that's fucked up. Like, I'm not going to resist natural urges that I have. So we were in the Maldives, okay? We were in the Maldives on a surf trip. We were there for like 2 or 3 weeks.
When was this?
October 2022.
Okay.
And loved it there. It was beautiful. But you know how it is in like the island resorts, you only eat there. Like you don't like go to another island to go out for dinner. Yeah. There's nothing there.
And it's usually like maybe the dinner options are kind of exciting, but breakfast is exactly the same. And then
all the meals were the same being vegan.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm also celiac since birth. And so it's like very limited. Traveling's always been an issue.
Well, so I'm glad you're saying that because a lot of first argument that vegans say like, oh, you didn't do it right. Because, if you did vegan right and healthy, then you wouldn't be hungry.
And I'm not anti-vegan now at all. No. I'm just
but just to
I've learned
the point, like
right
you didn't eat wheat, so it wasn't even inflammatory. And that eliminated by not you being celiac, eliminate probably at least 60% of processed vegan food for you. No?
Which is good.
No,
I don't want to be eating the processed vegan shit.
But that's what I mean. So you were doing it right. Like you weren't eating like a fully processed vegan diet.
No, I was eating very whole food.
Yeah.
Always have, yeah.
Yeah. So that's I guess my point is because when I was vegan, people were like, oh, you probably were eating unhealthy. I'm like, no, I was actually like, I never had like chips and whatever.
Yeah.
If I did it with like sweet potato with coconut oil and all of that stuff.
How people like, Oreos are vegan. I'm like, yeah, but I can't eat Oreos. I'm allergic to Oreos, literally. Like, feed them to me and I'll break out in eczema and probably get bowel cancer, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that runs in my mum's side of the family
Oh, wow.
as well. So that's a
It's
whole
almost like
different subject though.
Yeah, but also like a gift, right? Like if people had that motivation to avoid processed foods, the world would be a very different place, because we all get sick and we all can potentially get cancer from processed foods. But because your connection is just so direct, it's obviously easier for you. But in reality, that's the reality for all of us.
Easier and not.
Yeah.
Like growing up, it sucked.
Oh.
And then now that I couldn't eat anything growing up. And then now that it's like cool to be
Yeah.
gluten-free and like
Yeah.
everyone wants to eat gluten-free bread, I'm sitting there going,
do, yeah.
thank you.
Like, where were you 15 years ago?
Right? Thank you, because it means there's so many more options, and
Yeah.
especially when traveling and especially in places like this, everyone's like gluten-free everything. I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It gets confusing with oats though, because I can't have oats, and oats are naturally gluten-free. So they'll mark things as gluten-free, and then I'll be like, oh shit, it's covered in oats.
Oh shit.
That sucks.
I don't understand, like, because it's just the cross pollutate, like cross pollutants, or what's the word?
I wanted to hear you say that. Like cross-pollination. We got some
yes.
bees going on.
No, as in like between wheat and oats. I wonder what that is.
I think it can be, but I think that they're also just different. I mean, I'm not a food expert by any
You're
standard.
not a farmer?
I'm not a farmer, no. And
I want to be
don't
a
work
farmer,
in one
like,
of the facilities.
Yeah, but I would. I'm starting a vegetable garden, so I'll soon to be a farmer.
Like permaculture, learning about.
Well, so like in Bali, we're gonna have like a big garden with like proper. So I'm gonna be a farmer, and I do want to have cows and chickens. So.
I want cows and chickens so bad, and ducks.
So I'm like wannabe farmer. So like no hate on farmers. I actually want to be a farmer. So
Farmer girl.
ask me in a couple of years, and I'll tell you exactly what the difference is.
What are you planning on growing in Bali? Just everything tropical?
Vegetables. No, like tomatoes and cucumbers and I don't know, zucchinis, and I don't know.
I hope it works for you.
Yeah. No, I know people that do have like
in Bali.
Yeah.
My brain's just kind of like, hang on.
Yeah.
So much tropical
you can.
goodness happening.
Yeah.
How can you grow anything other than like dragon fruit?
I mean, I'll take dragon fruit.
I'll take dragon fruit. The red one? Yum.
Wait, so retracting back. So people are like listening to this and I'm like, oh my God, where are you guys going with this? So
have you got ADHD as well?
Clearly. Maybe this turmeric just gave me too much energy. So you're celiac, you go to Maldives and you realize, oh my God, everything's vegan.
Yes.
Can't have gluten.
Yeah. And I found myself, especially because we're out in the water all day or like moving, and I found myself at dinner time, especially like eyeing off people eating their fish or like meat. And I was like, yum. And then like afterwards I'd be like to my partner, I'd be like, kiss me. Just like, just kiss me with the taste. And he was like, you can eat it. And I was like, I like actually hadn't thought about that. Like it just seemed off limits. I wasn't allowed. And then I was like, okay, I'm clearly needing it. My body's like asking for it. And so I started eating eggs and fish on that trip. And then since then I've started eating pretty much everything. And it's been a little bit of a process, but a beautiful one.
What are the changes that you have noticed in your body? And
satiability is a big one for me, to be able to finish a meal and not feel like I need more.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I was a bottomless pit. It was kind of crazy.
I would like finish a meal and then I'd go to like fridge and just look at the food, and I was like, there's nothing that I really wanted. I was just like, and the body was just looking for meat. Yeah.
And I think it gets me longer through the day as well. And I know those are like two, not cheesy, but stereotypical kind of experiences, I guess, of starting to eat meat again. And I don't know if it is placebo or not, but for now it feels really good for me. Yeah. And at the same time, I don't want anyone else to start eating meat or to like make a decision based on something that I'm doing. Yeah. I'm like, I'm exploring. And for now that feels good for me. But I never want to I don't want the responsibility of making someone else do something.
And it's like, and I'm sure you inspired a lot of people to be vegan, right? So
maybe
a lot of people look at you
and I dislike that as well.
Yeah, because it's like just setting yourself free from labels. And I think it just allows people, I'm like, wow, I looked up to her so much. She was vegan. Now she's no longer vegan. I can still look up to her and not do the exact same thing for my body.
But I never even called myself vegan.
Yeah, but like just like how people
I call myself labels plant-based.
Oh, interesting.
For that reason. Yeah. Because I don't like definitions and
because they're cages, right? Like we put ourselves in those cages, and that whole idea of the fact that it didn't even cross your mind to be able to
Right? I'd put my own
mate.
brain in my own little cage.
Yeah.
Little
Because
mental
it was just like
prison.
that label was so strong to you that it didn't even cross your mind. I'm like, okay, I can actually have those things. And like I had the same thing for years. Like when you travel, like the options are so limited and you end up being groggy and like just really annoying and like really miserable, and you just realize like, wow, I have wasted so much of my life obsessing over food and not like making it such a big point of not eating meat that it just became like the center of of my life. And I think sometimes it's just like people, I thought that like if I eat it then I don't care about the animal. That's the story that it's being often said, but people don't understand the word reverence or celebration of like being deeply grateful.
Yeah,
And
before
it's
you eat a meal. Just
yeah,
give thanks.
and
I
which
have
I
a little
love.
food prayer.
Yes, and I do too. And I actually saw your reel, and I was like, oh, I've been meaning to do this reel for a while. You know how you have a couple of ideas in your head and didn't have a chance. I have a couple of moments in my life where I'm like crying from gratitude when I'm eating. I'm like, wow, like someone out there has given up their life for me to be satiated and to be alive, and I'll do the exact same thing to worms or whatever is living,
Nutrients in the soil.
yeah, to the soil as well, and to a tree and to mushrooms. And
To the
not my turn,
mushies.
yeah, not my turn yet, but I'll do the exact same thing. And there's that deep reverence towards that, and hopefully I'll be lucky enough to donate my organs as well to other people. So it's just like, yes, we are not for people, contributing to the suffering of like slaughterhouses, but there's more humane ways that we can demand to have access to animal protein.
And that's the difference between just eating and eating mindfully.
Yeah.
And eating with gratitude, and a little food prayer doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah. And it's just like pausing. So like I heard it, I really believe that it's the less mindful I am, the more flavor I need.
What do you
On
normally
my
say?
a prayer.
Yeah.
It's just like I just say, if I was to close my eyes, like, thank you so much for all the food. I'm super grateful. Thank you for. I just mentioned all the ingredients that I have, for keeping me alive, and I don't really have like an exactly one thing that I do say. Do you?
I have a go-to for sure.
What is it?
It's
I can adopt it.
It's pretty long. It's my play on Thich Nhat Hanh's 5 Contemplations.
Okay.
And it's do you actually want me to say? It's like
let's
2 minutes long, maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Do you mind if I do it?
Let's
So
do
I'll
it.
normally either like hover my hands above the food and like give them some little twinkle
Yeah.
fingers, or like underneath if it's a bowl, kind of like cupping it in your hands and allowing yourself to feel either the temperature of it and or just the energy radiating from it.
Cool.
Take a couple of deep breaths. This food is a gift of the whole universe, the earth, the sky, the sun, the stars, and much, much love and hard work. May we consume only that which nourishes and heals our body, mind, and soul. And may we learn to eat with mindfulness and moderation so as to be worthy to receive this beautiful blessing. We accept this food so that we may nurture and strengthen our sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, our sense of community, and help us in being of service to one another. We don't just bless this food, but rather allow it to bless us, honoring and thanking Mama Gaia for such an abundance of her earthly medicine and all of the hands that have touched this food in order for it to be consumed. Ho'oponopono, Ubuntu, and Namaste.
Oh, namaste. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved it. I really mean it. I feel like we add so much flavor and we need so much salt. That's like,
I love salt.
yes. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like people eat so much processed food because, when you serve them vegetables, they feel like vegetables have no flavor. And that to me comes from the place of lack of mindfulness. The more mindful you are, the more flavor you can notice in the vegetable. You don't, it's almost like, okay, for lack of a worse metaphor, it's like when you overuse a vibrator, then you can't really.
I love this metaphor.
Because it's so true. Then you can't really like get there. You can't orgasm.
You're desensitized.
Yeah. It gets desensitized to your hands because you just feel it's like overstimulated. So I think we do the exact same thing with food. When we eat real food, and when we're so used to processed foods, that when we get real food, it's like, oh, it's not stimulating enough. But I think it just comes from the lack of presence, the lack of mindfulness, that we really need something really strong to like smack us awake with flavor, so we're experiencing, I just want something super to chips and this and that. And I feel the more mindful I am, the more pleasure I find in like barely any additives. Salt is good for you.
Simple food.
Yeah, but like not like the processed.
Like just ghee and salt.
Oh, this is like crack.
And any vegetable, literally, right?
Yeah,
so good. Best thing in the whole world.
Yeah, it's like the best recipe for any sort of like vegetable. It's just like, but even then, like you don't need to add 5 million sauces and you try to cover up the flavor. So that's just, I think I would love to even just explore that more, because I think, a big part of a journey is for a lot of women is emotional eating and lack of mindful eating. So we just somehow space out and just sit in front of our plates and we feel like we're gone and we're not quite there. So I don't know if you have had any insight on what helps you be more mindful when you eat and before you eat, and when does it even start?
I mean, it's definitely still a journey because I inhale my food. I always have. Just having two older brothers, I've always just been like, get it in and then get more and get that in as well. And always really athletic.
Oh. What is it?
No, I'm trying to turn off the sound.
Okay.
Made it worse.
Never mind. Ignore.
Start again.
Yeah.
And we've always been super athletic as well, like my whole family. And so we've consumed a lot growing up, and mum was always a really good cook. And so I think just having that almost like initiation into wholesome eating, like eating really healthy, nourishing food right from the get-go. And in Australia as well, I think it's a bit different how, like growing up in Australia, we did have access to like the shitty foods, but it's not so much a part of the culture, or at least not the family that I was brought up in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like we rarely got takeaway. I don't remember really ever getting Chinese. Okay.
Yeah,
I have a good memory of sitting on the couch with my mum eating Chinese every time the boys would go out. So dad would take the boys to go to watch monster trucks or something weird. And we'd sit on the couch, order Chinese food. She'd like brush and plait my hair and we'd watch Sound of Music.
Aww.
Right?
That's so sweet. But it was just like a
feels so
celebration.
nice.
My parents would take me to McDonald's about like once or maybe twice a year. And it was just like very rare. And obviously we loved it, but it was never really part, you just ate at home, you never go out. Like that's a culture in Poland. So like it's very shocking when I find out from people in the US that like their parents didn't cook meals. They got only just like reheated meals, or they would go out for every meal or for every dinner. It's just like, it's quite interesting and shocking in a way that that's the reality for a lot of families.
And even so, I've seen, just being here for the past few days, I've been in at Erewhon pretty much every day. I'm just like, take my money, Erewhon. But I see so many of the like packaged pre-made food. One, it's so expensive. What the hell? Two, and that's even coming from Kauai, where everything's even more expensive. There was like a pad thai noodle dish with just rice noodles and like a few herbs and things like that, carrot. And it was like $22 or something for like this little portion.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, like, they have,
And
we all work for
and yet
everyone.
I will allow them to do that, and I will happily pay it.
Which is beautiful when you have access to real food and actually taste the difference. You're willing to spend all your money.
But
right?
but I was going to kind of say yes and no. So like yes for a lot of things there, but to the pre-packaged things that are already made. And it's not that I will always avoid those things. Like I know that there's a time and a place when it's good. But if I were to live here full time, I would try my best, I think, to avoid that, just so that you know that the food's prepared with love. And I feel like you have such a different relationship with the food that you eat. And even
So you cook all of your meals?
I love cooking. But there's something about cooking that, and I don't know if it's just like smelling it that gets, microphone. Just hit it. That gets your digestive enzymes working even just from the scent. Like you start salivating as you're cooking, and you get like you're letting your body know that food is coming. Like nourishment is on its way. Get excited. And then
just even visually looking.
Right? And it's a whole sensory experience. And then I eat with my hands a lot. Like I don't like cutlery. If I can avoid it, I will eat with my hands. Yeah. And my mum always hated it growing up. She was like, can you just like, we're out at dinner? And I'm like, nope.
It's such a beautiful connection, right? There are a lot of cultures that eat with their hands. I remember I went to Sri Lanka, and they were teaching me how to eat rice. I'm like, how can you eat rice like, you know, with hands? But there's a whole system how you have it here.
How is it?
Then you
Like a
use the
scoop?
thumb. No, you just do it like this and use your thumb to push it in.
That is genius.
I'm completely butchering it, but there's a system where you can take a full like handful of rice and use your thumb to push it in, and there is a system to eat with hands.
Wow. Because now that you're saying that, I'm like, hang on, I don't look elegant. You're
But
not
meant
they
to do
do.
it like that and lick all of your fingers. There's
I look like a raccoon in the corner. Like,
but it's like, it's the connection with food. I love that you're saying that. I would be curious to see if there is a study of people that, you know, take, 12 weeks of you eating out every day, the same amount of the exact same menu, and then, but done by somebody else versus you then recreating all of these recipes and making them.
yeah, I think the cooking aspect is.
That would be such a good study. How can I want to pay for it to find out?
I want to eat all the food.
But it would be cool to see, right? Like what's the connection with food and relationship to the level of gratitude. And the third study, you know, the same study, the next level, what if you harvest that food, you know, and what would be the exact same menu?
Out of your own, like,
garden.
things that you're going to grow in Bali.
Yeah.
When are you headed back there?
In 10 days, actually.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. Are you coming?
I'll probably be there. I'm trying to figure out this year currently, but
I feel like we all do. We're like, wait.
yeah, probably over, June, July when it's peak.
Okay, yeah. We might
time.
actually be back. So yeah, I'll tell you later, but we're getting married in June. So yeah. Anyways, back to mindfulness. So like, I love that you mentioned cooking. What has been...
I thought you just said, I love that you mentioned cocaine.
No,
I was like, I didn't. What?
I'm like, wait, that's a different podcast. That's funny.
What?
No, but actually...
Cooking, yes.
Cooking as well. Do you get high from yoga and meditation or breath work?
Absolutely. But I also just enjoy getting high. I find it really funny because most people when they get high, they just, stereotypically, they just want to like lay down on the couch and watch a movie or fall asleep.
But when you say get high, you mean weed, or do you mean
medicinal
mushrooms?
Weed? Okay. Mushrooms, I fucking love mushrooms so much. Like microdosing mushrooms and like having a good source for them, I think is one of the biggest game changers for my mental health that I've ever experienced. And
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that anyone else should go and do that. I think, have an informed decision on yourself, and especially having that conversation with yourself first is like, does this even feel right for me?
Actually, and why do I want to do it?
And why do I want to do it? But something that, so I teach retreats all around the world. One of my favorite places is in Peru at a place called Samadhi. And the owner there, his name's Fernando. He's oh my gosh, like can't even believe he's real. He's so grounded, so beautiful, so humble. And every time we're there and with the group, he takes us for a walk around the entire site and explains why he planted what he did, where he did, and everything that's going on. Pretty much the whole resort space came to him. Resort's kind of a big word. Retreat center.
Yeah.
Came to him in a dream. And then he just created it into reality. And he was talking about ayahuasca. So obviously being in Peru, ayahuasca's big there. And he's never sat with ayahuasca. And I asked him why. Like, I know that would be an intentional answer. And I knew that the answer that he gave was going to be something like potent and powerful. And he said he believes that you should speak to or like communicate with the plant beforehand. And he likes to do that. And I love this so much because it's very similar to something that I do just in my daily practice anyway, or nightly practice, is he will, before falling asleep, he'll lay in bed and like one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, and he will ask the medicine if he can communicate with it, if he should be consuming that medicine. And he said that and then he tunes into his dreams the next morning, like he'll write them down and try and remember what happened, and he will always receive a really clear message. And so he said that ayahuasca, he did that a few times, and ayahuasca said, I'm not your medicine.
Oh, wow.
Like, you don't need me. And I thought that was so powerful. One, just that's beautiful. And
just like what a trust, instead of like, oh, everyone's doing ayahuasca, and I kind of just want to see what it's like.
Yeah. And secondly, I didn't listen to a dream message that I had from ayahuasca before sitting in ceremony. where she told me, you don't need to do ayahuasca. You are ayahuasca. And but I was too curious. And so I went and sat in ceremony anyway. And then I laugh now because the synergy, or like the overlap between the dream and the reality, was so similar. It was kind of crazy.
Wow.
And the lesson that I got from both of them was I didn't need it now.
Yeah.
Like that isn't, so I don't think I'll sit again for a little bit at least until I get cold.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like, ayahuasca is different for different people, and it could be humbling. It has been humbling for me sometimes. Sometimes it has been empowering, just reminding me of my power. So
you were just recently there, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, like a month ago. And so it's really, I had I experienced giving birth, like, and the full on, I was for 9 hours giving birth, like a really real experience of like
goosebumps.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
So I just like saw everything coming up and incredible downloads. And obviously I'm like, oh my God, like everyone should be doing it. And then I talk to people and they have like absolutely different experience. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe that's the thing. Every time you sit, it's a very different, different way. But like mushrooms, like microdosing mushrooms has been amazing, because it's just like, it helps you remember I'm not my thoughts, and I'm not identifying with the thoughts. And these are just the thoughts that happen. And it's like up to me whether I believe those thoughts or not.
It's a very empowering kind of medicine.
Yeah.
And heart-based. I love that. Every time I eat just a microdose, like don't need much.
Yeah.
Very sensitive being apparently.
But I find it really interesting that for me, microdose sometimes can be way more powerful than the big dose, which is a beautiful metaphor, because it's like whether you're doing ayahuasca, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's coffee, like you don't need 3 shots or whatever, it's like you, again, like overstimulating yourself. And if you're actually fully present, there's very little you have to enjoy to have a similar experience.
My favorite's actually when you forget that you've taken a microdose.
Oh yeah.
And then you're just having the best day ever. And you're like, what is happening? And then you're like, oh yeah, thank you, mushrooms.
Yeah, we microdosed actually on Sunday, and we were just like vibing and laughing and like feeling so good in our bodies. And then we're just like, wow, isn't life so good? And I'm like, oh yes, that's actually just like, it's a bit of a bummer that I needed that reminder of mushrooms. And then like this whole week I was just like, isn't life so good? It sucks, but it's so good.
It is that though, right? It's like, how did I forget?
Yeah. Why? Like, what made me forget? Like,
right?
Because I feel like that narrative that like life is meant to be always good, and if it's not, that I'm getting punished, or why is it happening to me? Instead of like, can I find the juiciness and deliciousness through the hardships, and that everything, even as you walked in when I was crying about like 30 minutes ago, and it was just been going through something really, really big for me. And then I was just like, and in between of those moments of crying, I'm like, wow, but it feels good. I came to this planet to experience all of it, feeling of absolute betrayal and disappointment and everything in between.
You volunteered to come here.
Yeah.
I love that reminder. Every time that I'm like, something shit's happening, there's a few things that go through my head. One is just thank you, thank you, thank you. Just like, and I just will just repeat that. Or Ho'oponopono, an ancient Hawaiian prayer that's 4 parts. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Sometimes I'll even just repeat that. And I don't even know who I'm saying it to. I know that I'm putting that energy out there, and that I'm trusting that it's heard.
So I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful practice, especially to share with someone else, but just to share with yourself or with the universe is
because I always ask myself when like shit happens, like shit hits the fan, ask myself, oh, I chose this on a soul level. My soul chose to have that experience because she's trying to get me somewhere. And I don't know why is it, but I chose this moment, I chose this situation. I always think of it. It's like, I chose it, but I like the word I volunteered to be on this planet. It's also a beautiful reminder.
I picture like little souls somewhere in like a far galaxy, like looking down at Earth and being like, I volunteer as tribute, like diving in head first.
And then we're like so miserable. It's like, why am I here? I'm like, because you chose to actually come here.
And this is a big part of it. Every part of it. Yeah, makes sense eventually, but in the meantime, nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that though, looking back. And then the other thing is like, let's say, okay, you're having a really shitty day, something bad happens, whether it be in your relationship, work, whatever, or even like you're just stuck behind a truck and you're like in a rush.
Yeah.
I find it beautiful to just stop and go, not physically stop on the road, obviously.
Like, actually.
No, but just to pause the chatter that's happening in my own mind. And that allows me to take back control, one. But secondly is realizing that it is all just surrender. And so every time that happens or something similar to that happens, let's use that exact example, blah, blah, blah. I will think, okay, this truck is like a guidance from the universe, a redirection, because if that wasn't there, that truck wasn't there, maybe that's slowing me down to avoid a crash or something like that I otherwise would have had. And so we get all
maybe
all
it's
up
a metaphor. You maybe need to slow down in life to appreciate the little things.
Oh, I definitely need to slow down in life to appreciate
that
the
would
little
be my
things.
message. I guarantee that's the universe is trying to tell me on every single front, like slow down, slow down, slow down.
And that's why intuition's so important.
Yeah.
Because the same symbol or situation means something different to everyone.
Yeah.
Like art. Everything's just art. What does that mean to you?
It's beautiful. And it's, wow, I love that. I'm just going to like let it actually sit, because it's, speaking of pausing, it's like even through the interview, you just like go from one question to another because you're excited instead of like, oh, wow. So delicious. Such a good conversation.
I love this little pause because I need that. I need that so often. I just, bleh.
Because we feel like there's this pressure to respond, right? And it's the ego always give you pressure to respond. Your soul wants you to pause, not to react, but to act, right? So the pressure is from the ego, because ego's like, this, you know, be quick, because quick is response, instead of just acting from a place of your intuition, which is always coming from a place of pause and just like taking a step back. And yeah, and sometimes it feels uncomfortable, right?
Often.
Like we can just sit in uncomfortable silence right now.
Did you say uncomfortable or comfortable?
Either way. Like I think it just shows you like, why do you feel silence is uncomfortable? Is it really? No. It's so good. And like people are like, I can't believe you made me sit through this podcast and listen to silence, but like, is it the sound of silence? Isn't that the best, the most delicious thing ever?
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder.
I love this. And I always have to remember that, you know, only from a place of pause and space and silence we can connect with our intuition, you know, because she's always quiet. She's not obnoxious. She's not loud. She's not looking for attention. You know, she's just looking for connection with you.
Especially as women. I don't practice that enough myself. So I'm super grateful that you just invited that and reminded me of that. It's something that I'm trying to be better at. And so any opportunity to practice, I'll take you up on.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as we claim back, I think, you know, this entire hundreds of years have been like full on patriarchy. And then women are finally waking up and they realize, you know, patriarchy doesn't mean that you can't have a job. Like, yes, you can still be a mom, you know, because it's like we love the opportunities, but it's okay also to. Patriarchy basically means that your feminine qualities are equally celebrated and rewarded as your masculine qualities. You know, that doesn't mean that, you know, being connected to the intuition, saying my gut feeling tells me that this is not the right decision, even though on paper these numbers do add up, you know.
You mean like the anti-feminist movement kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, I feel like I'm in between. Like feminism basically means having equal opportunities at work, you know? And I get very angry when I see what's happening to women around the world and how unfair that is, and how many women of color, women from different countries have access to equal opportunities. So it's easy to say like, oh, reverse feminism. It's about having a choice, and whether you decide to be a stay-at-home mom or go to work, it doesn't matter. It's your choice. At least you have a choice. You know, it's not a choice if you're forced to something. So it's like, if someone wants to go to work and be child-free, I'm all for it. You know, we're not all meant to be moms. You know, that's never been the case in any culture. There were always aunties and the elders and the women that were not part of, you know, the family unit per se. So it's just really unique that like people are like, now everyone should be stay-at-home mom and wear sundresses and fuck work. It's really uncool that you work and you build your own business while you're single. And it's like, everyone's different, you know? And whatever, like, well, this is the right season for you right now might not be the season in 10 or 20 years. But, like, you know, don't put
probably
us in that other
definitely
cage.
won't be the season in 10 or 20 years because
Put us in
menopause.
another cage. And I think women are waking up and they're like, I'm seasonal. Like, I want to live according to the moon. And I'm not always going to be productive.
I'm cyclical, not seasonal.
Yes. And so just understanding that and like carrying that back, and it's like, don't get angry at men for like, oh, like patriarchy. I'm like, no, you allowed that, you know, because if all of us said no to this, that would not be the case, but we're allowing it.
I have a question for you, just out of curiosity. Would you consider yourself more in your feminine or in your masculine? Or even give it like a ratio or a percentage or something.
Okay, cool. So I'm definitely by nature more feminine, but I was just saying it recently on a podcast that I never really resonated with like the typical feminine, like, oh, let's, you know, sit in bed and gossip and stuff like that. I'm way more active. I love adventures. I have a lot of male friends. I love that men are a little bit more straightforward and more like want to see you win. I think women, sometimes don't resonate with women just getting together and talk badly about someone else. I'm like, waste of energy. I don't like it. Or like talking about guys is like so boring. Like if you want to like bore me to death, call me about your date. Like he said,
noted. Oh, you can't sleep? Listen to this.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, maybe I'm more masculine, but I think it only comes from, I think what I'm getting to know myself with my coach, she's like, you just don't want a wounded feminine because it's so within you. But the healthy feminine is powerful, has her own opinion, wants to be, it's a creative force and energy, and you need to just be surrounded by more like inspiring women. And I think just the last few years have been that for me. And I'm like, oh, cool. I definitely love that. And as a type A personality, like learning till it goes, obviously not easy. Yeah. There's a part of me that I'm like looking at all the guys in this biohacking space and biohacking space. I'm like, I love you guys, but bros, but like we're all the women. Like I feel like I need to pave the way so women have an option to be here, you know, since I have that opportunity.
It's really cool to be able to have in-depth conversations with another woman who's actually into the same kind of shit.
Yeah.
Because even just, and it's not right or wrong. Everyone's just on their own journey. But it's refreshing to have someone who's like actually, you know, into the same shit.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
geeks out about the same shit.
Because I'm a generator manifester, so I love creating things. And so for me, like talking about other people is just like genuinely bores me to death. Ideas, concepts, I'm the happiest, right?
Dude, I'm the same. I'm a manifesting generator as well.
And so like I love building. Let's build something together. That's
fuck
like that's my love language, you know.
But I need an executor. I don't know if that's a human design thing. No, I'm not an executor. I'm all ideas and concepts.
Yeah. That's
so many of them.
Yeah.
And then I'll change my mind every like second day.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, now I'm gonna do this. Now I'm gonna do that.
No, but that's why we need a strong implementer, someone who can like take this idea and like, okay, I'm gonna now make it happen.
I've heard this a lot, and from so many different people, different sources, about the importance of having a mentor. I don't personally have one, and I don't even know who that would be. Mm-hmm. Are you open to share who? Not that I'm gonna like steal your mentors or anything like that, but like, so okay, that's a struggle that I'm currently overcoming. A challenge that I'm
like
facing.
My coach for sure.
How do you find them, and how many do you have? And like, do you have one for different areas? How often are you in contact with them? How do you? I'm asking for me, but you know, asking also for anyone listening. How do we find them?
It's such a. I'm trying to think how I like. They all kind of like manifested themselves in my life, and they all reached out to me almost than the other way around, which is really interesting. I think maybe it's just being open to what the universe has brought. So I have one coach, that spiritual coach, that we basically jump on a call every 2 weeks for the last 3 years, and we discuss everything from a very high level perspective of like, this is just 3D version of it. What's the 5D zoom out version of what's happening to you, breaking patterns and right? And so then I have my mentor for supplements. So someone who has a $1 billion supplement company.
Like a nutritionist?
No. The owner of a $1 billion supplement company that has like is a friend of mine who basically wants to see me win, and just basically like, here's where you can take your brand, and here's how you mostly protect yourself from other people that don't play as nice. So that's the biggest. It's not about being the best. I have the best supplements in the world. It's people will go after you if you're good, and they'll try to destroy you. So he's kind of like helping me understand it's not gonna be.
Oh, they'll go after you in a bad way. They'll go after you and try to destroy you.
Yeah, that's
not. They'll go after you and be like, "Fuck yes, let's like lift you up."
No. Like that's just like how you can protect yourself as a business from others in the industry that are playing not so nice. Because I'm super naive. I feel like we're all here to heal people, and we're all this supplement. This is amazing.
We're all best friends.
And they're like, no, just like cutthroat dudes somewhere in the US that are just like. Put barely any product inside the capsules, have insane margins, and put so many bulk. Like my capsules of apple cider vinegar, the 2 capsules have 1,300 milligrams of apple cider vinegar. There are capsules that have 203, and the rest of it is fillers. I'm like, it's crazy.
And fillers are shitty fillers?
Yeah, like just like anything that makes you feel like the capsule isn't empty. So you feel like, oh, I'm taking all of this, and obviously they're very competitive and not so.
It's like a babushka doll. There's like a capsule inside the capsule inside the capsule, and just takes up all the space with the capsules.
Yeah, so you feel like, oh, it's something, and then you feel like, oh, supplements don't work. And then I have a third person who kind of helps me with my courses, because I feel like if anything, my teaching people is my gift. In a way that like it just brings me the most joy. It's like recharges my batteries. I feel like I'm most alive talking to people and teaching. I'm sure you can relate to like teaching retreats, like like someone plugged me into the supercharger of Tesla. So I have a friend who has enough experience from coaching people and kind of helps me navigate that as well, so like I become a better coach. So like I have like 3 people that I like massively look up to right now, and I'm more than happy to like share with you as well. So like
please do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Off it.
No, it's really, and I think it's like that's like what's the next level, right? Like we all want to feel like we're growing, and I think having someone who is not better than you, it's just ahead of where your journey is, right? That's the only like difference that your mentors are. They're not perfect, doesn't mean that they have perfect life. Oh, and I do have a sex mentor as well, so I'll tell you about that
later.
I forgot. So yeah, so I love learning, so I'm like, this never stops.
I love learning too. I think that's so important as well.
Yeah,
just like to always be investing in. So like I'll invest in courses and things like that.
Yeah,
I'm currently doing one that's on like emotional, I don't even want to say emotional release, but on connections, communication, and not just familiar relations, but any kind of relationships. And I'm already learning so much. I'm like 3 modules in. Wow. I'm like, yay.
It's so satisfying, right? And I think
is.
that we kind of made a full circle to the beginning of our conversation, which was how do we, if we find pleasure in a growth mindset, we don't feel stupid. I know a lot of people don't start things because they feel like, oh, I'm not good at this, and I feel stupid. But like, so what? You're stupid. You're stupid.
And also, what are your strengths? Yeah. So like it reminds me of that saying, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its life thinking that it's stupid. And rather than thinking that you're stupid, find what your strengths are, find what your passions are, follow your curiosities. I can't remember who said that. It might have been Brene Brown or Elizabeth Gilbert. Brown.
We love both of them.
Yeah, we do. Touche. Yeah. I think it was Brene Brown though. Just like find what you're interested in and then follow that curiosity, and it'll never be wrong. It'll shift. Maybe a bunch of times, because it isn't always linear. She said she used to preach like, I've always known that I wanted to be a writer or like a guest speaker or whatever, like within that realm. And then she got off stage one time after presenting. I was back in her hotel room and ordered room service and got on Facebook to have a look at all the different comments from how people found the night. And she said, how it's always that one comment that hits, then one negative one. There's like hundreds of praise comments and kindness and well-being said. That's not English. You know what I mean? Good things being said. things being said. And then there was one comment, and it wasn't even a negative comment. She knows that it wasn't like a personal attack on her, but it was, I came here tonight wanting to find answers, and I left feeling even more confused. And she was like, fuck. And she had a little cry about it with herself in a room service, spoke to her best friends about it, spoke to a partner about, like, her husband about it. And they both reflected the same thing. They were like, you are a very unique person to have known what you wanted to do from 5 years old and then just set your mind to it and did it. Most people, or a lot of people, really struggle with what it is that actually sets their soul on fire. And so instead, she said, she used to say, like, find what you love and then do it. And then she pivoted and she was like, find what you're curious about and explore it. And then when that shifts, explore to something else. And that's always been in the back of my mind, just being like, I'm so grateful I heard that.
Yeah, because it makes it like, when it comes to like my ego, I find it really hard to resonate with people that like are 30, 40 years old and like they don't know what they like or what they do. And it's like, that's such I can understand the empathy to realize that, like, okay, they're maybe so deep into people pleasing that they don't even know how to follow that curiosity, because I can only have empathy, but it's definitely hasn't been easy. And also our ego, what does ego like and doesn't like? Ego hates being stupid. Ego loves being right. So if you don't try something because you're worried that you're gonna feel stupid, I'm like, okay, so look stupid, you're still alive. Like, it's just that label that, why you're even judging who's stupid, and like, it's with this word flexible, like more flexible than who, who gets to say that, who's the judge of what stupid is, and so just like being comfortable with being called names and not being reactive to it. And for some people it's like, oh, she's a stupid blonde, and I'm like, okay,
do you still get that?
Yeah, but like,
seriously?
And I'm like, cool, like I can be a stupid blonde to you, because it's like,
yeah,
that's just your opinion. I'm not married to it.
It's your projection.
Yeah.
And it's,
but what if it's true? I'm also okay with this being true. I'm so many things I have no idea about. The more I learn, the less I know, so I'm like, you're right, I'm so stupid about so many things in life. I don't know how to build a rocket, I wouldn't even know where to start. So like, you are right. There's a grain of truth in everything you say. So thank you for actually pointing that out. Like, I'm just a beginner. And so like, just like, instead of proving myself that I'm smart, I'm like, no, I think you're right, that I'm stupid.
And that's the best way to go about bullying too, because people get thrown off. They're like, oh shit, you're impenetrable.
Exactly, because you can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, David Goggins again. Sienna, where can people find you?
On Instagram is probably my main platform, and has been for the past 12 plus years.
Yeah.
So Sjana Elise, SJANAELISE, and jump in there, send me a DM. I read all the DMs. I can't respond to all of them, but I do my best to get back to as many as I can.
Amazing.
And I love hearing people's true stories.
Oh,
like that's kind of how I started as well into like the whole social media game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it started on Tumblr.
Oh, wow.
Back in the OG days as like a Q&A account. So people would like ask questions and I would give advice, unsolicited, terrible advice. But I'm a bit too scared to go back and try read some of the things.
Yeah.
But that's always been, a passion of mine is helping other people if I can. And especially when I was struggling really deeply myself, I found that was one of the biggest things that helped me get through, was feeling like, oh, if I can't help myself, at least I can help other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's been such a pleasure. And I'm going to practice some more silence tonight. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Silent stretching.
Yes. I love that.
Or foam rolling. Yeah.
Delicious. All right. Thank you so much for listening to us and the silence. And I'll see you on the next episode.